This video is the practice assignment for the Art 1 Project 2 charcoal drawing. You'll need a mechanical pencil, a 6B charcoal pencil, a piece of vine charcoal, which is literally just a piece of burnt grapevine. You'll also need some blending stumps, a white charcoal pencil, and an eraser, because charcoal can be a little bit messy if you're not super careful. I also like to use pastel paper or colored charcoal paper because it has a nice tooth to it. Tooth refers to the texture on the paper. And I like to use paper that's not just plain white because the white charcoal shows up and it creates really nice highlights where it wouldn't on regular white paper. So follow along with me as I'm drawing for this video. Stop, start, and rewind it as needed, but whenever you're drawing an eye on your own in the future, you should always use a reference photo. So you're going to start by first drawing the contours or outlines of your eye, paying close attention to the relationship of the pupil to the iris, and then the iris to the outer part of the eye. Include all the little details you might need: highlights, shadows, flecks in the iris, and any other areas that are significant changes of value that you want to remember. Once you have it all drawn out, use your 6B charcoal pencil to block out the pupil, but make sure to leave the shiny spot open. Use your blending stump to fill in the holes created by the tooth of the charcoal paper. Then go on to add the shadows and details of the very darkest parts of the iris. Use your blending stump to blend out the areas where there's a little bit of value scale in the flecks in the eye, where it blends from dark to light, and also to smooth out your pencil marks. Remember the pattern that happens within the iris. You have some little lines coming out of the pupil going toward the outer part of the iris, and some lines going from the outside in as well. They should be pretty random in size, but again, use your reference image to help you decide what goes where. So next you're going to take your white charcoal pencil and choose really carefully where the lightest parts of the iris and the highlight are. With white charcoal, you're not going to really blend into the black of the charcoal because you want the paper to be showing through as one of your gray values. In this particular eye, there are distinct reflections of the eyelashes that show up in the highlight on the pupil and iris. So go ahead and draw those in with a really sharp charcoal pencil and go around them with your white charcoal pencil. Continue to add your highlights to the iris with your white charcoal, but again, don't overdo it. You want to make sure that you've got some paper showing through. So now you're going to take your blending stump and smooth out some of your pencil lines. Make a little bit more of a darker gray and create a little more shading in areas where it's necessary. So now we're going to work on the whites of the eye. This is the first time you should be using your vine charcoal in the case of this particular drawing. Use your finger to blend and make sure that you're creating shading where the eye sinks back into the eye socket and leaving the part closest to the iris a little bit lighter. Go in with your charcoal pencil and darken up the parts that are really dark on the whites of the eye. But in this case, I have a little bit of a highlight on the right side, so I'm going to leave the paper blank there. There are also some highlights along the waterline on the bottom, so I'll add those in with the white charcoal. Continue layering and blending and adding details as you go. So now I'm drawing the crease above the eye and using the vine charcoal to create the shading. Again, work in layers and use your finger to blend it out. Now we're going to work on the waterline and the shading under the eye. Remember to leave a little space blank for the eyelashes to grow out of. So heading back to the crease above the eye, I'm going to add a little bit more vine charcoal and blend it up toward where the eyebrow should be. And then I'm going to add some of the 6B pencil in the darkest parts once again. So at this point, we're just going back and cleaning up the inside of the eye. Something I'm going to add in this video that I didn't do in the graphite video are little veins in the whites of the eye. So I'm going to use the blending stump to create them because your 6B charcoal pencil will be too dark and your vine charcoal isn't really sharp enough. So the trick here is to press harder on some and not so hard on others because some of them are really faint while others are more prominent. If you need to practice on the outside of your drawing before just throwing them in there, go ahead and do that. Now I'm going to brighten up some of the highlights and add some highlights to the waterline and a little bit of the whites of the eye. Use the clean part in your blending stick to smooth it out if necessary. Finally, we're going to do the eyelashes. So make sure your 6B pencil is sharp and go ahead and do one layer first, making sure your lashes are going in the right direction, and then make them thicker. You can also use your white charcoal to add highlights to a couple of them to make them look even more realistic. So now you're going to do the same thing on the top. Now we're pretty much done, so go ahead and do any touch-ups you think you might need and erase any smudges you might have made on the outside of the paper. You can use a soft brush to push the little eraser bits out of the way, and now you're finished. So now you can try this again on your own, but make sure that if you do, you're using a reference photo.